Hello Python students. In this lecture, we will continue where we left in previous lecture with respect to functional programming. Earlier, we saw iterator and generator. Now, we will look into the third point with respect to functional programming, which is inline statements. So first observe this code. A is equal to 10. B is equal to 20. If A is less than B, small is equal to A. Else, small is equal to B. Print small. And we have our output. Once again, this is very easy program. But what if I tell you that this particular block of the code, forget about this initialization and print statement, this particular block, which is if-else block. This particular block, I can write it in a single line. Shocked? But believe me, it is possible using Python feature called functional programming. This entire code can be replaced by a single line. Still, it will have same output. So let me first comment this code. Now I will write that single statement which has same effect just like these 4 lines. Small is equal to A if A is less than B, else B. Now let's first execute, and the output is 10 because A is less than B. What if I make it 100? Now the output is 20. And that's exactly how even these 4 lines of code was working. What happens over here is, we are assigning this value A to variable small if A is less than B. If that is not the case, which means if we are supposed to execute else, then we are assigning this variable B to this particular variable small. And this is how you can convert your 4 lines of code into a single line. And that's the only advantage we get over here. With respect to the time taken or with respect to the performance of the code, these 4 lines and this one line has same output. Both will take same amount of time and both are equal with respect to Python or the computer. Only advantage is, instead of writing this in 4 lines, we can write it in a single line and reduce the length of our program by using this everywhere possible. Now I am sure you must be wondering, is it possible only with if-else, or can we do something like this with loops as well? And the answer is, yes, we can write even our loops in single line. So let me first write one simple code. Let's say A is equal to 5 while A is greater than 0. Print A is equal to A minus 1, as in A minus equal to 1. And we will get our output from 5 to 1. This same code can be written in a single line by making small change like this. You bring print over here, add a semicolon, and then get this statement as well in front of it. If we execute it, still it will give us the same output. This is very useful if we have such small statements and only few lines of code inside while. But if you have a very lengthy code and all the statements are very big, it becomes very difficult to read that code if it is in a single line. So this kind of code we can write but it's up to us to make a decision whether to write it in multiple lines or write it in a single line. Once again, it reduces the number of lines. Otherwise, there is no difference between this code and the code which we had earlier with those 3 lines of while loop. Now the next question is, we did it with while. Can we do this with for loop as well? And the answer is yes, we can do that. But instead of doing it directly with for loop, let me introduce a new concept where we will anyway use this particular inline for. And that next concept is called as list comprehension. Let me repeat, it's called list comprehension. Let's clear the screen. And now look at this particular code. Once again, I am using that same list called fruits. I created a new list called new list. Then I am iterating over this particular fruits list. And if the character n exists in any of the fruits, I am appending that particular fruit to this particular list. In addition to that, at the time of adding that fruit into a new list, I am also capitalizing that particular word. As in, the first letter of each this fruit will become an uppercase letter. Let's execute. As you can see, only these are the fruits which contains this particular letter n. And now this small m became capital M. This small b became capital B, and so on. So in this particular code block, we are doing two things. We are filtering over this particular list with this condition, and if the condition is satisfied, we are adding that element into a new list with small change in its value. Now using this new concept which I just said, which is called as list comprehension, and the concept which we saw earlier, which was that inline statements, we'll try to implement a code block which will do all these things once again in a single line. So let me comment this code, and this is the place where now I will write that particular single line. New list is equal to, it has to be a list. Let me use these blocks exactly from here so that you will know how it works. Fruits dot capitalize, and we are supposed to do this for every fruit in fruits. For every fruit in fruits if n in fruits. Let's execute. It says there is a syntax error. Okay, the mistake is this particular colon should not be there. Now let's execute, and we have our output. Exactly the way it was when we executed these few lines of code. Now, once again, operationally, it reduces the number of lines. Other than that, functionally, there is no difference between this line number 10 and these 4 lines over here. So what happens is, we say new list is equal to fruit dot capitalize for every fruit in this particular list if n in fruits. And that's how you should read it, or that's how you should interpret this particular line of code. This is how we wrote inline for, inline if, and putting all this together in a list, creating a new list. This is what that list comprehension is all about. I hope you have understood these concepts. I don't want to elaborate too much using many examples for this. You can try any of the Python programs which you have written before and convert them into new codes using these functional programming features. I'm sure you will have a lot of Python programs where you have used lists, loops, if-else blocks and so on. So pick any of those previously done codes or any previous problem statements, and now this time try to write a Python program with same logic but with a functional programming approach. And then you will see, earlier if the code was taking 10 lines, maybe now you can finish it in 3 or 4 lines. And that's the biggest advantage of this particular feature called functional programming in Python. Thank you for watching this lecture. Happy learning.